Welcome to Swift Coaches Academy, a podcast dedicated to bringing exercise and health professionals the uncensored truth behind what it really takes to succeed in the health industry with me, your host, Zenia Wood. As an accredited exercise physiologist and the founder of Swift Coaches Academy with almost a decade of experience, I'm on a mission to transform the lives of ambitious health professionals who want more and are ready to take action to create incredible impact and financial freedom. So join me as I speak candidly with industry leaders about the struggles and successes from within the trenches through thought-provoking conversations.
In this episode, we talk about all things Swift, as Zenia and myself, Claire Curl, the biz manager for Swift, sit down and have a deep dive into the origin story of Swift Movement Academy and Swift Coaches Academy. If you're an exercise coach or a health professional, this episode's for you.
So I am so excited for this to finally be our first episode of the podcast. Claire, thank you so much for putting all of this together.
It has been a long time in the making, but I'm so excited we're here.
Oh, absolutely. And I think there's going to be so many golden nuggets even just today, and I'm excited to jump in.
Me too. So let's just jump right in and just get the history, understanding about who you are, where you came from, and how Swift came about. So the first question I'd love to ask is, what would I have to know about you, Zenia, and your younger years to understand who you are today and how you got to where you are?
It's been a journey, that's for sure. I think if we take it right back to probably, schooling days and things like that, I was always the very studious kid, and I think that played out and really still does in the fact that I was always striving to be better in terms of my sporting and my academic success. Played volleyball for Queensland for almost a decade and was in the national squad for 2 years. And I think that, out of the goodness of my father's heart, he was always someone who would commend me on success. And he is probably not the most humble loser when it comes to sport. So I think, I really have that in me as well, because it was very achievement based, right? Like I'd win awards or I'd get things done, and it became that was the gratification that I got as a youngster. And so I would always try to be better and do more. And that sort of, I guess, shows up in me wanting to, succeed or be recognized, rightly or wrongly. I think that's kind of what's been instilled in me, and understanding that now, I kind of sit back and maybe, reflect on that doesn't have to be the way all the time, but it's a process. And then I guess if we sort of fast forward a little bit, I remember that I used to, when I was at school, I would make excuses to not go to social events because I felt like I needed to do my homework to the best of my ability. And I remember writing an assignment that had no word limit for my favorite teacher, thank God. Otherwise I would have been shot. But it was meant to be like this, I don't know, this booklet or whatever. And I did 26 pages.
Oh my goodness.
I remember this other kid who was like on the brink of failure did like 3 pages with like a title page so the teacher was basically like calling him out, being like, I can't believe like Zenia did 21 pages. And I was like, miss, it was 26. So I think I've always been a little bit of an overachiever, or at least really strived for that. So that kind of mentality has sort of helped me continue to strive and continue to push in certain ways and probably, do things that in hindsight, I don't need to skip the social event to still be good at what I do. And, I've sort of come full circle with that now. But I've always had this drive to do more and to want to be better. And that has now translated into how can I help more people and what else can I do and adding value. So I think that's really been actually quite helpful.
Yeah, that sounds like it. It sounds like maybe at the time, like a a really awesome opportunity that your dad instilled unconsciously to sort of grow that sort of want to be better in you. That's a really cool baseline for you to have. That's really cool. So I guess from there, how did Swift Movement Academy, where was that born from?
Yeah, so I think to understand that, we probably need to understand where I started once I graduated from exercise physiology. So I got offered a full-time EP position that was like 7 to 3, like super cushy, everything sort of done for you. And I turned that down to the dismay of both of my parents because their general, upbringing was you go to uni to get a good job, to get good holiday leave, to retire early or retire and kind of you work for the weekends.
That safety net type of employment.
Yeah, and I kind of just didn't like that idea ever. So I ended up taking a subcontractor position instead. And I think I've always just had like a little bit of a ballsy attitude, because I remember in the interview that I ended up getting the full-time position for but turned down, I just had a feeling that they were going to employ me. It was quite a rushed situation, and they were like, okay, well, so Thursday was the interview. They were going to call me on Friday to start the job on Monday. And I was like, okay, this is quite serious. So I called the other place I was actually sort of applying for, but it was a longer process for this contractor role. And I just called the boss of the company. I said, hey, I hadn't actually heard from the other company yet. I said, hey, I've just been given a position at this other company. I'd prefer to work for you, but I need you to let me know right now on this phone call, do I have a job or not? Because I don't want to obviously turn down them and then you say no to me. And so I effectively was like, let's see how we go. Yeah. And he was like, yeah, no, we definitely want you. It'll take a couple of weeks. And I was like, look, that's fine, but I just need a guarantee so that this is happening. Yeah. And so I think that was really like instilled a bit of a moment for me to go like, hey, like I want more than just like a job. I sort of see it as like, I really want to create, a legacy or a brand and build something of my own. And so this subcontractor position really was the way in my eyes to create that for myself. And it was no guaranteed income, and it was work your ass off. I think I got like 5 clients passed over to me, and I had to literally make everything else work. Fortunately, I lived at home originally, so I didn't have really many overheads at all, but I really had to grind from literally day one. This is like 21-year-old just graduated Zenia to really make that happen for myself. And I think that was probably one of the biggest moves that I made, and one of the most pivotal to the trajectory of creating what is now known as Swift Movement Academy.
That sounds epic. That sounds like some very jump before you know scenarios. And it's very obviously shines. It's very much part of your personality to just sort of jump and figure it out as you go, which is obviously something that's super important when you're running your own business. Yeah. In the start of starting Swift Movement Academy, what were some of the pivotal points that you feel like really changed what entrepreneurial your journey was like? What things that happened or challenges you sort of went through that you thought, oh wow, like this is a bit scary?
I guess if we talk pivotal points or scary, maybe they're possibly different conversations. I'm happy to talk about both. But if we go about like pivotal points, I think, after deciding to, effectively find my own clientele and work as a contractor, one of the moments that I remember is when now great friend of mine, Alicia Gowans, who's was 2-time world champion bodybuilder. When I first started coaching her, she basically sent me an email and was like, hey, I don't know if you know who I am, but I've seen what you've been doing with my clients, because I was sort of doing rehab for some of her clients. I didn't really know her, but I was sort of liaising with her and sending emails every week being like, we're going to change a couple things in the program. I hope, did you have any questions about this? Obviously, I'm not a bodybuilding coach. I'm here to do the rehab. But anyway, she ended up reaching out to me and being like, hey, will you train me? And I almost wet my pants. And I was like, yeah, sure, it's fine. And so for this, like, literally, like, internationally renowned person to be like, I need you, this, I think I was like 24 at the time, this 24-year-old to be doing this professional bodybuilders rehab. I was like, what the fuck? This is ridiculous. Absolutely. And then that sort of fast tracked into, I remember writing on my notes, she said, I just need support for 3 months. And I think this year is like year 5 of us working together. Man, awesome. Yeah. So obviously did something right, because she's flown me to the Bahamas and Vegas and LA, and, you know, supporting her through her comp prep and through all of that with her rehab. That was fucking huge. And I think that really solidified for me that, hey, like, I can do this, and other people who I felt were further ahead and better in their, or sort of further ahead, and I guess more senior in their journey to me, were really saying, like, Zenia's got something. And so that really, really helped me to have some sort of early on support from these people. And then I guess from there, that's when I remember coming back after she got her 3rd crown for her world title, and my subcontractor position. And I just remember I had felt like I was giving a lot more than was being brought to the table for me. And so I kind of was like, all right, this is the final straw. If they don't just acknowledge, after I came back from overseas, that I helped a bodybuilder get another world title in, like, our team meeting with the company was like 50 people, then I'm walking. Like, I'm done here, because I just kind of gotten to this point where it was very dog eat dog. It was very like, this is the way we do things. It became very like toxic masculinity, and there's a lot of shitty culture there. And so I kind of just went in, head down, did my job with my clients, and then got the fuck out and, like, worked at home.
That's not a lovely work environment, is it?
No. And I hope that it doesn't have to come to that for other people to actually be able to make that decision to make the move. But I think at the same time, like, sometimes it takes some shitty or, like, big catastrophic moment for you to be like, fuck this, I need to change. I wish it wasn't like that, because we'd be a lot more successful if we could, like, do things early when things were good but not great. But yeah, I remember in that meeting, nothing was said, not a whisper. There were some actually, like, pretty shitty negative comments, and, like, people being like, oh, well, how can, you know, no one's going to send an exercise physiologist overseas. Like, it just felt really shitty. And so I was done, and I sort of handed in my resignation. And that was probably one of the best things that I could have done, because I've never looked back. Yes, we've had some shitty times, but that was really the push that I needed to create Swift. And just for context, I guess Swift actually started maybe a year and a half before that. It was November 2017. And to answer your actual question of how Swift started, I just remember being like, I need to create something and I wanted to create a Facebook group. And I didn't want it to be called Zenia's Clients, because it wasn't about me. It was about the community of people that I was creating and their journey. And this gets to the real reason why it's called Swift Movement Academy, which is, back in uni, I always joked that if I ever had a company, I'd call it Swift Movement, because I am not so low-key obsessed with Taylor Swift. So if you didn't know that, now you know. So I remember when I did it, I just created this Facebook group called Swift Movement. I wanted to make sure you could find it on every platform immediately, and there was a couple Swift Movements that existed, so we added Academy on the end that felt you know, I guess like an institution or an educational place, which is exactly what I wanted, because leading up to that, all my content on Instagram and things like that was very education based. And so we called it Swift Movement Academy. It was a Facebook group. And then the same night, I just went, fuck it. I'm also changing my Instagram handle from like Zenia exercise physiologist to Swift Movement Academy. So that sort of just happened organically. I wasn't like, yes, I need to create a company today. But I sort of just, I guess, created a community out of necessity of feeling like it was no longer about Zenia's clients.
Yeah. So take us back to the team meeting, and you've walked out and you've gone, okay, I'm handing in my resignation. What did that feel like? Because I think sometimes we like to make a fairy tale about, oh, I'm going to start my own company. It's going to be great. But when you then look down the barrel of, I've started my own company, I have 1 client or I have 5 clients. What does that feel like? And what does those first couple of days, weeks, maybe months look like for you when you first started out?
Yeah. So I think when I handed in my resignation, there was a 3-month contract period that I had to live out. So I was fucking done by my last day. I was like, sayonara, we're good, let's go. Because 3 months of staying somewhere where you don't want to be and you've told everyone you don't want to be there is not a great time.
That's a lifetime. That feels like a lifetime.
Yeah. But then my first day back with clients, and I went overseas, I did some work again with Alicia Gowan's a bodybuilder. And so everyone just thought that I'd like moved my business overseas or something. But when I came back and I actually started with clients, the official start date of Swift Movement Academy 100% for myself is Valentine's Day 2019. So I spent that with my clients, and it was really like straight into it. Like everyone wanted to work with me. Everyone was asking to reach out to me. I had like full client list week 1, but that's because of the previous 4.5 years that I built a loyal customer base. So, you know, obviously those 4 years were pretty tough and grueling. But when I actually started Swift Movement Academy, we were good for a while, until we weren't. Because I rode on the wave of like, oh my God, now I get all the income I make and I can kick my heels up and everything's lovely and I'm making almost double the amount of money doing the same amount of work. And yes, there's like administration and all this other shit that you have to kind of like figure out. But then it got to a point where I got down to 17 clients and I was like, fuck, I will say this 1,000 times over, but I would prefer to shoot myself in the foot than work a 9 to 5 for someone else. And so I kind of got to this point of 17 clients and was like, fuck, what do I do now? I need some help. And I remember being September and I was like, oh, I'll just wait till the new year.
That's a long time to wait if you've got 17 clients.
It was fucking stupid. And I'm so glad that, I don't know, the next day or the next week I turned around and I was like, Zenia, what the fuck are you waiting for? Like, that's just stupid. If you know that things aren't going well, like continuing to quote unquote try it on your own when I'd just been fucking doing that for 6 months and clearly it wasn't going in the upwards direction. I just knew I needed help, and I knew that meant that, you know, I needed to hire a mentor. And that is really where things kind of kicked off.
Cool. So if you're having this thought, okay, I need to hire a mentor, what is the next thought that goes through your brain in terms of what is the criteria that you set for yourself in terms of what a mentor would look like and how that would best suit you? What are you looking for when you're looking for a mentor?
Yeah, so I think I knew who I wanted before I even knew if they ran mentorships, which is kind of weird, but most people will know. And I still work with him. His name's Carl from Athletes Authority. And I was just like, the guy who's running the behind the scenes of this, and he was like a nobody. No one knew who he was. It was very like hush hush. People knew of Lachlan Wilmot, who's the face of the brand, and he's the educator. But no one really knew who was doing behind the scenes stuff. He'd send like an email out occasionally, and I had to like dig. I couldn't even find how to apply. I like sent him an email being like, I need your help. And then he was like, oh, we have this program. I was like, it'd be great to put that on your fucking website, but okay. So it just, you know, I sort of felt like I was watching what they were doing, and I was like, I need to do something like that, because what I was doing wasn't working. But I guess to answer your question in terms of what I looked for someone who was in my industry, who was ahead of me in the game that I was playing, and who was doing shit that was unconventional but working and people were loving. So for my first mentor, it was absolutely in my industry. And I think that that's really important. I now have external mentors who are, I guess, more holistic in terms of business or, you know, other avenues of the business world. But first and foremost, I think it has to be someone who understands the intricacies and the ins and outs of what you do, and how to make that better.
Absolutely. It sounds like great advice for anyone that's starting out. I mean, it's scary doing stuff on your own. And obviously, if you've got someone that's been in the game and is doing it before you and knows how it works, it's obviously always going to offer some value.
Absolutely.
So what has been the growth for Swift Movement Academy? We know that obviously it's been alive for a while now and growing as a business, but how have you been able to move your position within Swift Movement, and where are you now from where you started being that EP working by yourself?
Yeah. Okay. So when we started, like I said, we got down to 17 clients. I hired Carl, and things went upwards very quickly, which was incredible, with a lot of fucking hard work and effort. Because I did see a lot of people who were in that group and that cohort of people not taking action. And that was honestly the difference. It's like I was executing and they were still talking about the fucking problems from 4 months ago. And I was like, what? And I felt like I started out as the littlest fish in that pond, of the mentees, and I outgrew that pond, and I was like, look, I need the next level of whatever is on offer, because that pond no longer became relevant to me, because they were talking about problems that they'd been talking about for a while. I was surrounding myself with people who weren't actually being the entrepreneurial go-getters who were creating change in the industry. And so what that looked like for me was July 2020, I believe, I hired my first staff member. And this is like peak COVID, FYI.
I was going to say, that sounds like smack bang in the middle of COVID when everyone's starting to shut down. You're still going up. That's epic.
Yeah. So peak COVID, I hired my first staff member because we just continued to fucking provide value, and we pivoted. And I think a lot of businesses, especially in healthcare, were like, oh, the government says I can't be with people in person, so I can't do anything anymore. And as an entrepreneur, you create solutions to the problems that you face. You don't go, oh, hands up, can't do anything, I'll just fucking sit here and get the handouts.
Yeah.
So, you know, I pivoted with that, and then hired Jess, who's an incredible EP, since moved on because she wants to work in a different sector of exercise physiology. But yeah, we got to 15 people on a wait list. I actually might need to correct myself. I think it might have been 2021, because I remember when COVID re-COVID happened again, just freaked out. And I was like, bro, I've done this before. Like, it's fine. Everything will be fine. So I went through COVID by myself, correction. And then the next year, hired Jess, because I had 15-person wait list. And I was like, no one's leaving. I upped my prices like 3 times already, and everyone's still here, and I can't help more people because I've only got so many hours in the day. So that was great.
Clarifying that, you're saying that you went through the whole of 2020, the COVID, where there were mass lockdowns in Brisbane, lots of people couldn't go to gyms, and you did that, and you still had a growth where you needed to hire another team member in 2021 with a wait list in 2020 when there's some businesses that closed. Is that correct? Is that what
that's correct.
Correct. Okay, that's pretty insane. So it's 2021, you've hired your first coach. We then go into another lockdown, which thankfully Brisbane wasn't insanely long, but she freaks out and you go, don't worry, I've done this before, and we went up still. That's nuts. Okay, take us on from there.
So we had a couple of coaches who we've had another couple of coaches who come in, and one other who's come and gone for personal reasons. But yeah, I think I just realized that I couldn't create the impact and help as many people and serve as many people as I wanted to by myself. And I think the thing that a lot of solopreneurs get stuck in is they're like, no one's going to ever be as good as me. Or they don't do it the same way. But like, you used to be the person who didn't know the shit either. And I think that we need to, if we're going to create business at scale, we need to be okay with going, this is going to get done at maybe 80% of what I could do it at, but we're going to help so many more people. And obviously you charge accordingly and you know, you have to navigate those conversations, but there will be some people who'll say, fuck yeah, I'll take a new person on and I, you know, get a little bit of a cheaper rate for that. And that's going to be beneficial because I still love your service. And the thing that people maybe don't realize or understand is that if people are going to leave you, if you become no longer available to them and they really love you and want to still work with you, but let's say it's out of their budget or you just are at full capacity, they're not going to go and find someone fucking on the other side of town. They're going to go, who do you recommend? Because I want the mini version of you. And you go, the person who I'm fucking upskilling, who's in the same building as me, who I coach. That's who I recommend. And that's the thing. Like, you have to hire people who you'd be willing to have as your coach if you were in your client's position. And so I really make sure that I do that. And I never put someone in the hands of someone who I don't trust with my own body or my own rehab. And now I guess I've built a reputation of like, it doesn't matter who I give as a coach. Everyone goes, well, Zenia would never choose someone who she doesn't trust. So I trust Zenia.
That couldn't have been said better. I think a lot of people get lost in that cycle of thinking, oh, if it's not me, then who would it be? But you summed that up very perfectly to say that, you know, obviously people will take your recommendation, and if it's in your own team, then it's using your systems and everything else. That's what better option for them to take if it's not going to be you. That's amazing. So in terms of your team for Swift Movement now, where are you guys sitting? What does your team look like? Yeah,
well, I guess the team looks like we created another company. So we now have two companies, as most of you listening to this would probably be aware. We have Swift Coaches Academy, totally separate companies. So they're both listed, they're both actual companies. And the reason we did that was because I love educating. I've always wanted to be an educator, and I am not a massive fan of what I feel is a very broken system in terms of our registered body, because it's like you have to choose between these 35 courses and that's the only thing you can do to continue to upskill, and it's like a fucking boxing kettlebell course from someone who's so outdated, who uses, I don't know, like what's the 1999 version of PowerPoint or something. It's just, you know, it didn't sit well with me to be like, well, if that's the only place I can get my education from, that's not what I'm doing. So I was constantly investing in courses that gave me 0 points and 0 accreditation, even though I needed that. So I did that on top and invested very hard throughout my entire career. Like, I was always someone, like I said at the start, with my work ethic. I would do that like on weekends, I literally just, for the first maybe 6 years of my career, didn't really have a social life and worked on weekends, but I loved it. Right? Like, this wasn't like, don't feel bad for me. Like, I was like making Canva PDFs being like, this is fucking awesome, like on a Saturday night. And so I think you have to love it if you're going to be doing it for a long time. But I just felt like I wanted to educate more people. So I guess to understand Swift Coaches Academy, you need to understand that like a year after I graduated, I was coaching personal trainers and teaching them the shit that I know. It was not any sort of formal thing like we have now with our mentorship programs, but it was, hey, who wants to like get together? There was 20, I was the youngest PT at 20, youngest coach, sorry, at 22, in a room full of personal trainers, and there's 23 of us. So it's a pretty old crowd for a gym. Usually you get your 18 to 21-year-olds, and then there's like one old guy who's been there for a while. But I was the youngest. Yeah, I was the youngest, and I was the most qualified on paper, but everyone else had more clients than me. like I was the one in the corner being like, oh, I have the degree, but like didn't know how to fucking talk to people or retain clients, or like that's all the shit that I had to learn. And being in that like it was more of a healthy dog eat dog scenario of like, well, this is my client, and like kind of whoever's first in best dress, if you're the one giving value and you're the one doing it, then you'll get the clients.
Yeah.
But I saw an opportunity to add value to the PTs. And then I started training the PTs in the gym. And so all the other people who were coming in for their training sessions were like, oh, she trains the trainers. Maybe I want her. And so a little bit strategic, but yeah, exactly. Well, but like I had shit to offer, right? Like, and I also wasn't competitive. I was complementary because they're doing weight loss and muscle building, not my jam. And I was doing rehab. And so it was like, if you need rehab, cool. Like I'll integrate with bodybuilding just like I do with some of the Ali's Angels clients that I have. They do bodybuilding with their bodybuilding coach because I don't want to touch that. And I do the rehab. So yeah, educating for like, what is it? Like 6 years now. But Swift Coaches Academy was born out of the fact that I just wanted to do that at scale. And I just wanted to help people in terms of both their business and their exercise education in a way that I felt wasn't being done hardly at all. But if it is, like not well enough in the industry, not enough support. It's like a tick and flick DIY or like a weekend course, and then you fucking remember nothing, and then you can never talk to the person who ran the course again. And it just became very like, I'm taking your money for this weekend and then never fucking talk to me, and here's your piece of paper. And I really, really hated that, because I feel like, you know, in uni you get so much support and you see people every week and there's time to think and sit and digest. And so the courses that we've created are effectively like uni on steroids at a higher level with all the shit that you wish you learned but didn't.
Well, that sounds epic. I mean, it's basically, it's a very daunting thing coming out of university, feeling like you are super qualified and you have this degree and I've got this piece of paper and I've been working on it. Everyone says that I can go and get a job. And then you look at it and you go, oh, there's a whole lot of outside, external, street smarts, quote unquote, that I don't have, that I now realize I need. And I am feeling very daunted about the idea of walking into this profession. So yeah.
And that was me. That. Like I was in the exact same boat. And that's actually another reason why I chose to do the contracting role, because they provided us with technical support and business support. Granted, I look at some of the business support now and feel like that was not ways to not run a business, but you know, you learn things from
learning regardless.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. You win or you learn. Yeah. And so I think, you know, just that thirst for knowledge, and especially being young, especially having literally no commitments financially or obligations, I was like, let's just go hard. And if it fucks up, whatever. Like I'm here to learn and I want to soak in as much as I can in the trenches, not like behind a fucking textbook anymore.
Absolutely. And I think something that I'm hearing that like Swift Coaches Academy has that really is one of the biggest differences is the fact that you're running these tutorials, you're running these mentorships, but you're also still in the trenches with Swift Movement Academy. So they're learning from someone who is also going through the same, whether it's education and they know what, you know what someone needs to learn, all the things to really enhance their abilities with their business, or whether it's in business and someone wants to learn how to do better, but while you're still in it. So that's obviously something that makes a massive difference. And it was one of your criteria, right? When you were looking for a mentor, to have someone that was in the thing that you were doing better than you. So.
Exactly. And I think, you know, one of my pet peeves that probably brings up for me is people who hire generally a business coach, but that person coaches other people in like how they can become business coaches. And it's like, you fucking missed the step of like, where do we get business coaches to coach you in the shit that you're doing, instead of like teaching everyone to, and then all these fucking circles of like everyone teaching everyone business and everyone's just fucking passing money to someone else and no one's actually doing anything. Like who does the skills that helps the people? Like it just, it feels very frustrating when they're like, oh, I can make more money doing business coaching, so I'm not going to be a PT anymore because I failed at that. But I can teach other people how to get to where I got and then get fucking burnt out and then resent it. And then
Yeah.
maybe they'll become a business coach and do the same fucking thing.
Yeah, that sort of seems like a reverse qualifications not really happening scenario. It doesn't really work out there. So if we're looking at you now, who is a successful multiple company owner, versus the girl who had 17 clients and decided to go out on her own and walk away from the contractor position, what has changed? What in your life personally or professionally has changed for you? What looks different now?
I think the first thing that comes up when you sort of say that is like, back when I was a contractor, when I moved out of home at 25, which I get is very late, but I moved into a share house with 6 other people. So we had 7 humans living in this house. And that for me was my first experience outside of home. And I was sitting there grinding, and they're like at uni or like working part-time. Like no one in the house had any sort of like business entrepreneurial things going on. I kind of just like locked in and went like, let's, do the thing where you fucking grind, you reinvest every single dollar that you make back into your business. And I didn't quite have to live on like metering, but I wasn't going out. I didn't have any fancy meals. And so that share house experience, was really a place where I was like, I need to knuckle down. And the intention was to purchase a house in 2020, which I did. So it was 2 years in the share house, purchased a house at 2020. I now have an investment property as well. So I have 2 properties under 30 years old, which I'm pretty proud of.
Absolutely wild. That's insane.
No government handouts either, because the first house was like over the threshold. So this, high, like single high achieving female tries to make something of herself and the government goes, fuck you, which was
very supportive.
Yeah, absolutely. I felt really helped there the one time. But yeah, so, not letting those things stop you or set you back. And, versus now, like I said, the 2 properties, which is awesome personally. Personally, I've also really started to create some better boundaries for my work and my social or play life. So, I absolutely have worked the 5 a.m. till 8 p.m., gone home, worked till 11, got back up, started at 5 in the morning for years. And I think a lot of people try to fast track that process, and absolutely we can. And mentorship is a huge benefit as to how to do that, but nothing beats reps and in the trenches experience. And I think we all have to go through that in whatever that looks like. And this whole like passive income is like, nothing's actually ever truly, like, you're putting time and effort into at least understanding what you're doing. And I think people who are trying to do that are really trying to, I guess, cheat the system, but it's going to catch you out in the end, because if you're not adding value and you're not doing these things to nurture and you're just looking for a quick buck, it'll be exactly that. And it's not going to be long-term success or financial freedom for you. Yeah. So then I guess your other part to that was, where am I now professionally? So 17 clients was 2018, really struggling. No, it was 2019. Great. I was doing like, I don't know, 1,200 to maximum like 2,000 a week. And it's 2023, January, 2022 last year, we hit 600K. So it's not bad.
Wow. Oh my goodness. That's wild. Yeah. That's a very large difference between 2K weeks.
Yeah, absolutely. But that's, that's hiring, that's scaling, that's growing, that's these mentorship programs. Like, I'm no longer trading my time for money, and I'm trading my money for experience, or for fast tracking their results, or for, hiring a team around me and not being afraid to reinvest. So that's huge. And I think in December, we were talking about like how many team members we have now. And I was like, oh yeah, we have a team of 7. And then you turned around and you're like, Zenia, it's 9. And I was like, what do you mean? She's like, well, we've hired 2 more people. I was like, oh.
Yeah, so, absolutely wild to think that you've gone from basically like a team of 2 in like what, just over 2 years ago to a team of 9. Like,
yeah,
that is nuts.
Yeah, well, like a year and a half technically, because it was like July 2021.
Of course,
yeah. And so I think the other thing to point out is like not all of those are coaches, and that's not all Swift Movement Academy. So we have at the moment 2 on the floor coaches. I do 0 actual coaching of clients. I just coach my coaches and sort of oversee that. But obviously there's you as our business manager. And then the other 5 people in our team are virtual assistants. And that's just honestly like, so actually I lie. Jess was not my first hire. My virtual assistant was my first hire.
Yep, right.
So getting time back first. And I actually think that should be the first hire for every business. People are like, oh, I need to hire an assistant coach. And it's like, that's like $40 an hour at least. When, you know, you're doing 10-ish hours of bullshit admin that's like changing someone's fucking payment details, or like, you know, writing in the program and copy and pasting it into, you know, your PT app, like all that shit can be done by someone overseas without you having to like spend that time. It's teaching someone exactly what you've done. It's administration, it's online. And so we have 1 full-time, 2 part-time VAs, I believe, for Swift. And then the other part-time ones and the other 2 are all working combined full-time for other clients of ours, because we saw a huge need for it. And I fucking really struggled with virtual assistants for 2 years, being like, how do I make this better? And WhatsApp messaging them all the time. It just was a fucking nightmare. So we've now systemized that, created a new business stream called Swift Assist, where we effectively find, hire, source, upskill virtual assistants. And obviously you, Claire, do all of the incredible management of the business owner as well. Because when I was like, that's the first person you hire. You don't know how to delegate. You don't know how to do anything. You just say, do this.
Absolutely.
And, like, you know, it's I guess a little bit of a shock or a real difference for you to go from like, I'm just going to throw a task at someone, to being like, no, like, I don't care if you live in the Philippines, you're part of our team. Let's bring you in. This is a cultural thing. And I want to make sure you feel included and supported. And it's no longer just do this task, do that task, which is why a lot of relationships break down and why virtual assistants are so people pleasy, but then don't tell you what's really going on or the real struggles that they're having. And obviously those relationships build long-lasting commitments and make your relationship better. And then you can have hard conversations or better manage people. So that's been a huge, steep learning curve for I think both of us.
Absolutely.
And then also on the back end being like kind of still working through, but like kind of out the other side, like can at least see the end of the tunnel. It's like, virtual assistants are fucking gold. Like I literally, if all of them left tomorrow, I'd have to hire more immediately. Like it's a non-negotiable in our business. Like
absolutely.
I don't know how we'd function and do what we do without that.
No.
And yeah, so that's, I guess, where Swift is now. Coaches Academy, Movement Academy, mentorship, Swift Assist. There's a lot of fucking moving parts.
Absolutely. And you do it with grace.
Oh, thanks.
I guess one question that would be great to ask, and something that I think your insight would be fantastic on, is if you were speaking to anyone in the industry who was either thinking about, so maybe they've just finished uni or they're thinking about getting into industry and starting their own business, or maybe they just have, what is maybe one or a couple of recommendations that you would have for them to take action immediately to start growing their business? Or, you know, think back to when you were decided you'd left and Swift Movement was going to be standing on its own, no subcontractor role. What is your best and most, I guess, most important recommendation for someone thinking or listening to this going forward?
The first thing is you have to start before you're ready. You have to. Like, I am so huge on jump and then learn how to fly on the way down that it's not even funny. Claire hates me for this because she's like, no, everything has to be planned 3 years in advance. Where's the calendar?
I love that because between us, I fully support that whole mentality, you know, be before you are, jump before you're ready. Like, I understand it on a level that makes sense to me, but I love the idea of also having a little bit of a plan. And that's why we work so well, because you're going to jump and I'm just building the wings very quickly.
And you're fucking great at it, might I add. But I guess on that as well, like when we're thinking about hires and potentially our first couple, they can't be a mini version of you. They have to be your opposite, the yin to your yang, right? Yeah. Like if Claire and I were both like jump and figure it out, we'd both be like, where's the structure? And then like crash at the bottom. So it works exceptionally well. And I think, you know, having the same vision and the same, you know, vision and like mission towards what you're creating needs to be unanimous, but then you have to have different skill sets. Yeah. And so, you know, I am the ideas person. I am the let's fucking go and like we're gonna pivot and change and do all these things. And then obviously you, Claire, are the put all the pieces together and make it like work and function in a trajectory that makes sense. And like, you know, pulling me up and being like, we can't start a mentorship next week because nobody knows it exists yet. So
yin to yang.
Yeah, so I think the recommendation would be you have to jump before you're ready. I get so frustrated when people are like, oh, I want to start a business, and it's like this fairy like ideal, and then they go, oh, what's my logo, what colors should I have, what's the font size that I'm going to use, and maybe I should start an Instagram and start posting on there. And I'm like, do you have any clients? Like, go and fucking talk to people. Stop standing behind your computer and being like, I'm going to make it look pretty, but no one knows it exists. Like, you have a fucking side hustle. Unless you're making money and profit, that's not a business.
Yeah.
Like, you just have a cute little idea that hasn't actually, and there are a couple of things, like get an ABN and figure out how people can pay you and maybe have like at least a waiver form. That's fucking it.
Yeah.
Because the thing is, if someone said to you today, I want to start working with you tomorrow, you could get those things in 24 hours.
Absolutely. I think
that's the shit that, like, no one gives a fuck what your color scheme is except you. And so I just think that people sit in the planning mode because planning feels good and nice and it's, you know, I'm doing something forwards, but it's like, unless you are actually bringing in dollars, that's not a business.
Yeah.
And I think that's the biggest thing to take home. And then maybe to add to that would be consistent as fuck and understand that the consumer mindset, which we all have growing up, is you give, you receive immediately. It's like, I give someone $10, they give me a packet of gum. Done. Expensive packet of gum, but they give me, you know, like you give and then you get instantly. Yeah. Business is the total opposite, where you give, maybe get something back, maybe. But like on that, I was creating content on Instagram for 6 years before I ever sold something to those people. I'm not saying that you need to wait 6 years and just add value for 6 years, but what I'm saying is that brand loyalty and creating value and being consistent as fuck at the shit that's not yet giving you results, and learning that delayed gratification is the only thing that matters, because if you get short-term money right now, it's probably going to mean that you don't get it later. Whereas if you build up a reputation and a brand, it's going to set you up for success for the long term.
There's some pretty epic recommendations. I think that's two very valid, very valuable takeaways that anyone in the industry starting out or already maybe in there for a little while can jump with and go. So how can people find out more about you, Swift, get involved? Where can we find you? Where can we see you?
Yeah, so we've tried to make it as easy as possible. Everything is Swift Movement Academy, no matter what platform. So it's YouTube, website, Instagram, Facebook. And then obviously just having started Swift Coaches Academy officially through, I sort of sat on my hands and like, I don't want to do Instagram, but we've done it now. So we have an Instagram for Swift Coaches Academy now. TikTok is also Swift Movement Academy. That's starting up. We're recognizing the need for a ton of content in 2023 and adding more value and giving back again. And then our free private Facebook group for Swift Coaches Academy, which was actually how that name came about as well. I seem to make Facebook groups and that becomes my business name. So if you see one, like it's probably going to happen. Yeah. But I wanted to create a community that was outside of Instagram specifically for the coaches. And so I was like, oh, it's the Coaches Academy. It's the Swift Coach. So that's how that came about. But yeah, so Swift Movement Academy or Swift Coaches Academy are the places that you can find us. And there's a ton of value in there. There's heaps of stuff on YouTube for video demonstrations talking about business. We have a ton of courses, we have mentorships, but we'll probably save that for another time where we can sort of dive in deeper. But I guess our core things are that we do exercise, rehab, and performance coaching, both in Brisbane, in Coorparoo, and also virtually. So we do the exact same thing, face to video. So it's a virtual live, you chuck your headphones in your own gym and we coach you in real time, which I think is something that's really lacking in the industry. Everyone's like, again, I want to make passive income. I don't want to fucking talk to you. And it feels just a little bit distant. So we've created a higher quality service where we're actually still able to be there and support people who aren't local to us. And it runs exactly the same as if you're a client physically in our space. We just can't physically touch you. And then Swift Coaches Academy has obviously our business mentorships and our education mentorships as well. We have little masterclasses and shorter courses as well that we're bringing out in full force this year. So look out for those. And then Swift Assist, as we sort of alluded to before, where we match business owners with highly skilled health professional specific virtual assistants. So that's where you can find us.
Epic. And you can find all of the links to all of those handles down in our description. So you guys can look at there and click on them. You'll be able to get through. And thanks for chatting with us, Zen. It's been good to learn more about you and the origin story of how Swift Movement and then Swift Coaches Academy came about, which is just an epic story, really.
Thank you. And I think, like we want to do this so that we can continue to get a little bit more, personality across and sort of dive a little bit deeper into long form stuff so that people can learn who we are, not just me, but obviously you as well and our team. So I'm freaking stoked to have finally hit record on episode 1 and this is one of many.
Yes. So thanks for listening to us and you'll see us again soon.
Thanks. If you enjoyed this episode, it'd honestly mean the world to us if you could share it with a friend or on your socials, follow and leave a quick review so that we can bring you more real, raw and uncensored stories from industry leaders. We also love hearing your feedback, so please DM us on Instagram at Swift Coaches Academy if you have suggestions for future guests or topics. Until next time, and in whatever you do, move swiftly.